Hi everyone and welcome back to our channel. This is Teacher Andy for Proactive ESL. Proactive ESL is a place where we help you activate your English, be it grammar, functions, topics, or skills. Today we will be looking at a grammar topic. The grammar topic is specifically passive voice. Passive voice is a very important topic because it's frequently used in English. What is the problem with passive voice? It is that students usually overuse it in writing, but rarely use it in speaking. It is not easy to form many times, and students will use passive voice, but basically using past. Was cooked, was done, was built, was created, and this limits the level of your English. Usually the level for passive voice is upper intermediate or advanced. I set up the exercises that we're going to see in this lesson for upper intermediate or advanced, some more specifically for advanced students, so that again, you can try to practice the English that you have learned before. The problem with passive voice is that students study English for many years using active voice, and then reach the level for upper intermediate or advanced, and suddenly they're told, you know what? Passive voice exists in English and is used quite a lot. So changing the mindset so that you can now use passive voice is very difficult because all the time you've used active voice. Now, passive voice for sure is my favorite topic to teach. Today, we will look at how passive voice is formed and when it is used so that we do not overuse it so much in writing, but specifically like all exercises here at Proactive ESL, we're going to try to work for speaking and listening primarily so that you activate your English. The level for this topic is going to be upper intermediate or advanced. I have set up some exercises more geared towards advanced students, but in general, both upper intermediate and advanced students, I think, will benefit much from this lesson. So let's do it. Let's activate your passive voice. I know it sounds strange to activate the passive, but that's what we're going to do. Let's activate your English. Let's do it. How was it? Did you come up with 5 good passive voices? Was it easy? Did you come up with them just like that? Or did you have to think about it quite a bit? The idea is, don't worry if you have to think a little bit about them. Try to, again, relax. Try to use the language. And again, remember, the idea is we're learning, we're trying to use more difficult structures. And if you're an upper intermediate student, it really takes more time. If you're an advanced student, then great, go ahead and produce as many as you can. And if you can, use the more complex examples that we're going to look at right now. So here we are now at the specific topic that people usually are waiting for, right? Teacher, please tell us, how do you form passive voice? Again, remember, we're doing everything the other way around. First, we're going to try to produce the language, and then we're going to look at it, right? But we're going to look at it in a way that you are going to participate as well. So this is the basic grammar for passive voice. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to look at one example in active voice, and then you at home are going to try to transform it into passive voice. I'll give you some time and see if you can do it quickly or if you have some issues with it. Now, again, I will not tell you how to do it for now. I just want you to try to do it, and then we're going to be looking at how it is done. Ready? Here we go. The first example is this one. And for this one, what I want you to imagine is we're going to be talking about a specific topic. We talked about COVID-19 at the beginning. Now we're just going to be focusing on a company. For business English, we have many companies, right? And of course, companies are also an object of which you can use passive voice quite a lot. The one that we're going to be looking at is Apple, which is quite famous, and all the examples with all the different possibilities for tenses are going to be used with the company Apple. Here is the first one. So again, for active voice, I can say Apple made the iPhone in 2007. Here I have my iPhone. I'm using it right now to remotely control Keynote. And again, for this one, you have active voice. Apple made the iPhone in 2007. So go ahead, try to change it into passive voice. I'm sure this one's easy for you, right? So yeah, of course, it's like the Starry Night example. iPhone was made by Apple in 2007. Great. This one is usually the passive voice that most students are accustomed to using. You use the past with was or were, and then again, of course, you use passive voice. What we want to do now is we want to focus on all the possibilities that you have for passive voice, so that again, your English really is more upper intermediate and really is more advanced. So this is the first one. We're going to look at a second one, and then we're going to start to try to think about how you form passive voice from active voice. Here we go. Number 2 is this one. Apple has made 10 iPads since 2010. And for this one, again, that's active voice. Apple is doing the action. How would you transform it into passive voice? Go ahead and try to do it. How was it? So here we have the passive voice. How do you say it? 10 iPads have been made by Apple since 2010. Now, let's look at these two examples, and we're going to try to figure out how to move from active voice to passive voice. Remember, when you have been studying English, you have been studying active voice, and then suddenly you get to upper intermediate or usually advanced English, and they tell you, okay, there's this thing called passive voice. Now I want you to use it. Of course, if you're using active voice all the time, then now you have to switch, and you have to switch the mindset that you're actually using for your English. So look at the first one. As you can see, I've color-coded the different aspects so that it's easier for you to see. And if you can look at it, you have the active voice, the verb is made, and you keep the same verb in the passive voice, right? For example, this one, Apple made the iPhone. When you use it in passive voice, you have the iPhone was made. Then you have in green the verb to be. You always have to use the verb to be, right? And then you always have to what? Look at example number 2. Apple has made 10 iPads since 2010. In this one, you have has made. Here you have an auxiliary, which is in orange color, right? And you have to, again, if you have an auxiliary, you have to actually use the auxiliary. How do you do it? Remember, you have to use, for example, for this one, 10 iPads, you have to transform it into have. Now, in purple, made. Then you have green, which is always the verb to be. And then you have orange, which is the auxiliary has or have. Now, how do I go about in transforming it from active to passive? Again, we're going to look at the formula, but the most important thing is that you change the order in the sentence. First, you have Apple made the iPhone. This is active because Apple makes the thing. But then when you change to passive voice, you have to switch it. And then first you place the object, right? The iPhone was made by Apple in 2007. Number 2, Apple is very active producing iPads. Apple has made 10 iPads since 2010. Again, we change it. First start with the object. 10 iPads have been made by Apple since 2010. Great. Remember, we use the auxiliary if you have one. Then you have to use the verb to be. The verb to be has to go in the tense of the actual verb. If I have the iPhone was made, because made is in the past. If I have Apple has made, 10 iPads have been made, because again, has made is with the auxiliary have. So I have to change in the passive have been. And then in purple, you have the verb made, which is the past participle. That's the idea. You always use the past participle. Again, don't worry. We have this formula in a second and a few slides for you to again review. But let's go ahead and move on and tell me for the other ones. For example, number 3. Apple is making the new iPhone 13 right now. How do you transform that one to passive voice? Go ahead and try to do it. This one's tough. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try to help you out. So remember, first thing we do, we have to switch it, right? If we have Apple, we have to put it at the end, and the object comes at the beginning. So I have start with the new iPhone 13, right? That's what the object is, starts because it's passive voice. Then remember, with the orange, we always have an auxiliary. Do we have an auxiliary? Yes, we do. It's is, right? So we have to use the auxiliary, right? And then what is the other thing that we have to do? We have to use the verb to be. So we are going to have to use the verb to be. And we have to use the verb to be. How? In the same tense as the original sentence. So again, if it's the auxiliary is the verb to be, then we also have to use the verb to be, and it's is making. So we have to use the verb to be in the progressive being, ing. And then what is the other thing we always have to use? We always have to use the past participle. How did we use it before? It was made in the color purple. So how do you transform it into passive voice? You go ahead and say, the new iPhone 13 is being made by Apple right now. Tough. I know this one's a tough example, and you're going to see tougher examples. But this one over here, to repeat. Remember, when you use passive voice, you have three things. You have to switch the object and the subject. Again, the new iPhone 13 comes at the beginning. Then if you have an auxiliary, the orange one, you have to use it, right? So you have the auxiliary is, and then you always have, look at the green section. For the green section, you have always the verb to be. And how do you write it? You write the verb to be in the same form as the original sentence. The verb to be here has to be being because the original sentence is making, ing, right? Progressive. And then finally, with the purple, what do you have to use? You have to use the past participle. So how do you transform from active to passive? This sentence you have, Apple is making the new iPhone 13 right now. You transform it, the new iPhone 13 is being made. It's being made by Apple right now. Again, I know a lot of movement, a lot of changes, but that's what we're going to be doing from now on. We're going to be trying to use the passive voice, but not with the more basic, simple past, but actually using it with tougher verbs like this one over here. So let's go ahead and continue with some more examples. Look at number 4. Apple usually makes cool products. How would you write the passive voice? Ask yourself, does it have an auxiliary or no? I always have to use the verb to be in the same tense. How am I going to use the verb to be here? And remember, we always have to use the past participle of the main verb. Here the verb is makes, again, for all of the examples that we're doing. So remember, auxiliary yes or no. Verb to be, you have to use it with the same tense, and then the verb has to transform to the past participle, plus you have to switch the object and the subject, right? So how was it? Here we go. This is the passive voice. Cool products are usually made by Apple. Did you get it? Don't worry if you didn't. Again, you'll be able to look at this information again, try to figure it out. And again, in a few slides, you will have the whole formula for you to always remember. Great. So those were the easy examples. Can you imagine? Now we're going to be looking at the tougher ones. For these ones, I'm not going to help you as much. I really want you to activate your English. You have to yourself try to figure out how to do it. And the best way for you to do it is for me not to say anything. Of course, don't worry, we're going to do more exercises, but try to review what I said before and try to do the same thing for these examples over here. For number 5. Number 5 is, Apple should make an iCar soon. Did you get it? Remember, switch the object, use the auxiliary if it has, verb to be has to be used, remember the green, and then the past participle of the main verb. An iCar should be made by Apple soon. An iCar should be made by Apple soon. Remember what we talked about intonation? Here you don't say an iCar should be made, but should be made, right? Should be made, not should be made, should be made. Thought groups, okay? Now, an iCar should be made by Apple soon. And look at number 6. Number 6 is, Apple could make an awesome spaceship. I think so, right? Incredible spaceship. Can you transform that one to passive voice? This one a little bit easier. Very similar to exercise number 5. Did you get it? This is the passive voice, right? An awesome spaceship could be made by Apple. Great. Number 7, again, a little bit easy. Apple won't make more iPods again. Active voice. Can you transform it to passive voice? Here we go. iPods won't be made by Apple again. And the final one, number 8, really tough for more advanced students. Apple should have made a cheaper iPhone 11 Pro. So again, remember for the intonation, I don't say Apple should have made, but Apple should have made, should have made the accent in the past participle. Apple should have made a cheaper iPhone 11 Pro. I'm going to give you some time. Try to transform it. How do you transform it? Same thing again. Switch the object. Look if there is an auxiliary. If there's an auxiliary, you have to use it. The verb to be, you have to use the verb to be always when you produce passive voice. You have to use it with the same tense as the sentence has in the original. And then finally, you have the verb. You have to use the past participle of the verb. Here's the passive voice. Did you get it? Okay, now try to say it for me. Say that sentence for me with good English intonation. The thought groups. Can you say it? It's a little bit tougher for you to say, right? I'm going to say it for you one time. It goes like this. A cheaper iPhone 11 should have been made by Apple. A cheaper iPhone 11 should have been made by Apple. Now, try to hear the difference. When I hear active, Apple should have made, and then the passive, a cheaper iPhone 11 should have been made. You just hear made. They sound almost exactly the same. Do you understand when I say that it is very tough for students to try to hear the passive voice? Because they sound, in many cases, similar to the active voice. Again, example number 8, Apple should have made, passive voice, and a cheaper iPhone 11 should have been made. Should have made, should have been made. You just hear the made. Great, let's move on.